Sometimes we win, sometimes we don't win. Don't give us the bird, don't give us your stinging eye. We try our best, and we're successful. Come watch our show. It's River sponsors. It's time to start. Enjoy the show.
Welcome along to Betting Weekly Live. You're with Dan Roebuck alongside me, Lewis Jones. Over the course of the next half an hour or so, we will be talking our way through tonight's Premier League action, highlighting the best bets in the big match, St James's Park as Newcastle host West Ham. Plus, we've a look at the current futures markets when it comes to the English top division. We will dip into Serie A as well. There are 2 games coming your way. And we'll also take a look at the big game in League 2 as well. Port Vale, top of the table, take on Crewe. Plus, we'll run through some stats and facts and where the money's going ahead of the Monday Night Football in the NFL. Share your winners with us. Just tag us in at Because We Win. Let us know in the comments who you're betting. Great response already. I'll run through 1 or 2 of these in just a second. But first of all, Lewis, how are you?
Yes, good form, Dan. Excellent weekend, I thought, of action, Premier League-wise. Lots of huge stories, I think, everywhere, wasn't there? Especially from a sort of a journalistic point of view. Amorim taking charge. I was at Portman Road for his first game. That was quite interesting to see how little changed, I thought, for Manchester United in terms of their output. And then obviously the Manchester City story just took another turn to the extraordinary, didn't it, really? And an absolutely unbelievable result to get done 4-0 at home to Spurs. Quite a seismic moment, I think. It's just the end of the domination now for City. So, yeah, really... brilliant weekend of action, I thought. I managed to cash a couple of tickets as well. Manchester United unders somehow scraped in. There was 2 goals in the first half. So, and laid City in that Spurs game. So, yeah.
Well, I was going to mention that your kids' college fund is going up week by week, because maybe the last time that we were on together, or the first time we were on together, you were saying, look, I think it was off the back of City scrambling beyond Southampton, and you'd bet against them. You'd laid them in English parlance, City. And you said, look, I'm just going to keep on doing it. And like five defeats on the spin in, your account keeps rising. I mean, is this still going to be a thing when City play Liverpool? I mean, they're going to be, I don't know, price they're going to be sent off at the weekend. There might be 5-2. You're going to start backing against them at 5-2.
Well, this is the problem I had. I nearly went against laying them actually against Spurs, just because the price had drifted so much from where it normally was. So I had to sort of make a big decision there to whether to continue, because whether to sort of lock my profit in and move on to the next sort of strategy somewhere, or keep going. And I think I am going to keep going with it, just until Guardiola seems to realise where the problem lies in terms of that midfield. I mean, he can't keep playing Silva, Gundogan in the midfield too at the moment. He needs to just somehow find some legs in there, maybe putting Nunez in there, or dropping one of the centre backs in there. Just give the defence a bit more protection until he sort of decides to do that. Then I will still be tempted to keep on trying to exploit these angles against City, whether it would be in the outright markets in terms of laying them, or just teams to score against them, players' shots on target against them. They're all still live. And yeah, I suppose you mentioned the college fund there. It's definitely the family summer holiday fund is taking a nice little boost over the last few weeks. So it's whether to bank it or keep on pressing. But these are all the decisions we have to make in this game, don't we? So it's really interesting developments though. As I said, it's that was a real seismic moment, I think, at the Etihad on Saturday. And I think it could just be the end for City in terms of their dominance.
Could be, couldn't it? We'll look at the futures market in just a second. Lots of comments coming in. Ray says, good afternoon, Dan and Lewis. Looks like it's going to be a tough night for the Hammers. I think Newcastle will win at least 3 goals, will be at least 3 goals superior. He's going Newcastle -2, -3. That'll be a sizable price. DCB says, really bullish on this game. 3 plays Newcastle -1. At 2.45, home win and over 3.5 goals in the match at 3.4. Newcastle half-time, full-time, 2.35. They're all decimal odds from DCB. Rick says, good morning, everyone. Ming says, yo, guys. Rick says, my best bet today is in Denmark First Division Odense to win it over 1.5 goals. Well, Stevie's watching on, so no doubt we'll get the nod if that's the decent bet or not. Duncan says, good afternoon. Ian says, Newcastle and over 1.5 goals. Ming says, if West Ham lose today, will we have another EPL manager sacked in quick succession? Possible. Jennifer, hello, guys. Nothing to bet on today for me. Let's see what angle you've got on that Newcastle game. Disky, welcome, Lewis and Dan. Sibila says, over 3 goals. I could see West Ham helping out as well in that. Yeah, not wrong. Fox 3 says, evening, gents. And Disky says, I've been against City since that Sporting game, thanks to Lewis. That's a rash of comments that we've got in over the course of the first 5 minutes of the show. Before we get to take a look at how BetRivers price up the Premier League, some notable winners over the weekend and losers as well, unfortunately. This might be an interesting one. A $12,000 play on Cole Palmer over 1.5 shots on target, which was a loser. Had that one that was cleared off the line by his own player, didn't he? I know Nigel was doing his nutting after that one. $11,000 on Leicester against Chelsea over 2.75 Asian total. So you get a little bit for your money there, don't you? 10,000 on Atleti over 1.5 goals. That was the winner against Alaves. Atleti coming good in Spain. $10,000 on City Spurs under 5.5 goals live in play at -182. You're pretty safe with that one. The last goal came, the fourth goal came quite late, didn't it? 9,000 on Liverpool on the money line against Southampton, which was a winner. And also 8,000 on Chelsea on first half handicap as well against Leicester, which was a winner. So some sizable wages there. Yeah, Cole Palmer. I think there was a lot of anytime goal scorer punts that were gutted, Lewis, when had that one off the line. Madueke that was off the line. I can't remember who it was now, but he looked like
it was Madueke. Yeah, I mean, blocked his own teammate's shot, didn't he? Unbelievable. And that doesn't count as a shot on target for that.
Does he not? Is that right?
Because it took the over 1.5 shot. I'm sure that's the case. If it's your own man, it doesn't count. So, that's a real sickener. That's actually that made me feel a bit funny there just thinking about that. So yeah, I feel that punter's pain.
This is how BetRivers price the Premier League at the moment off the back of the weekend. Obviously, we've still got one game to come, but Liverpool, Lewis, are now minus money, -121. Arsenal +333. Manchester City, third favourites, +350 here. Then Chelsea 16-1. And then we get into 50s bar those. Now, we've talked a little bit on the show over the last few weeks, and we're a little bit anti-Liverpool in terms of price. Are we still going down that route? I mean, you could back Arsenal and City now just over even money if you Dutch those prices. Would you prefer that? Are we now thinking, hang on, Liverpool might be the real deal? What's your thoughts on the futures as it stands?
Yeah, I'm still waiting to be sort of convinced by Liverpool, and I'm still not, if that makes sense. Even that performance at Southampton, it still was a little bit sketchy in places. And they're on an amazing run, and I suppose there is no real reason to sort of think that they won't sustain it because the data sort of backs everything up, and they've got the experience of players that have been in a title run before, and the Anfield factor, and just the whole. This is Liverpool. They're used to going for titles, but it's just a bit of a gut instinct. I think that price is still too short. And have they peaked too soon? That comes to sort of my thinking as well. We are only in November, and titles aren't won at this stage of the season. The contract issues are going to continue to sort of plague them throughout the season. I think obviously Salah's come out and spoken after the game.
It's interesting that he comes out nearly after every single game. He's played a blinder. He's won the game for them. I mean, he's around about +350 to be player of the year, which I think he might be better value than Liverpool winning the title. But he comes out every week, does he? He says, oh, well, my contract's not done. I don't know what's going on. I'm left in limbo. What do you make of that? Yeah,
I think there needs to be some clarity, really. I can see why Liverpool haven't tied him down, really, because last season he wasn't at his best last season, and giving him a bumper contract after him. It's getting on a bit, isn't he? In terms of his output, is he as good as he once was on last season? But this season, he's absolutely turned up.
He's flying. Yeah,
it's amazing, isn't it? That this could be an angle to exploit looking forward in terms of players coming to the end of their contracts. Their output absolutely spikes. I remember was it Adebayor that used to be a famous player that used to.
Right.
I think when his contract used to run down, his goal output absolutely spiked. So maybe it's a thing with Salah, and I just think this unwanted noise that could follow around Liverpool this season with the contracts with Trent and Van Dijk and Salah might just affect them at some point when the results start to turn and everyone's not maybe singing off the same hymn sheet as much as they are at the moment. And I still think Arsenal are the best team in the Premier League. I've got to say, and that I think this is their time, to be honest. Still, even at those prices, I would encourage people to get involved now with Arsenal. I've been on them since the start of the season at much short prices, and having a look at my sort of anti-post portfolio, they're sort of leading they're leading most of my angles here. So I really need them to start stepping up sooner rather than later. And I did start to worry a little bit before the break that maybe they were just off it slightly, but I do think with Odegaard back now and everything just seems to have calmed down a bit. And I thought they were very, very good against Forest. They look like the Arsenal of what we've seen over the last 2 years, who are normally very, very consistent. So yeah, I think they got back on the horse, didn't they, against Forest? And I think that win just shows they're going to be a force still across all competitions this season, and they're very capable of going on these long winning runs once they've sort of settled down in terms of injuries and stuff. And they've got a very favourable fixture list until the new year. So I would if people haven't taken a position yet in this market, I think Arsenal are the team still. I know they are on the face of it on the table. They've got a lot to catch up, but I do think they're the ones that can catch Liverpool. I won't be going anywhere near City until they start to fix anything in that midfield. I think that's too short of a price as well for me. But yeah, just I think Arsenal are the play still. I think, Dan.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see what happens over the course of the next few weeks. And as Janippi points out, next game for Liverpool is Man City. Lee says Liverpool still lacking a top-class striker. And then Frederick, with a little bit of a curveball, says Emmen against the Graafschap here, over 2.5 goals, both teams to score. Is that in the Eerste-Divisie? It's not the top flight, is it, that one? I love all the plays, whatever you fancy tonight. I know there is a lot of continental action. Just let us know, because look, I'm sure that the community that we're developing here at Betting Weekly and that, because we're always interested to see what you guys. So if you get it in the comments and you're looking at one or two other posters, take note. You might be able to spy a winner or two. I've got to be honest, Lewis. I'm not really across FC Emmen's form. I don't know about you. It's not really on my wheelhouse.
No, I have little time away from the Premier League anyway. So with a young family and lots of work commitments. So yes, unfortunately, that's not been on my radar.
What is on Lewis's radar? And Ben just says, "What about Port Vale Crewe?" We will be talking about Port Vale Crewe shortly. Lee says, "I've got to head out. What's the play for tonight? Newcastle -1 goal." All right. We'll just calm down. Let's get the prices on, and let's get the thoughts for the first game, because Lee's going out. So we better get some plays and some picks on Newcastle West Ham. We are not running out of time, but we've got Newcastle to talk about first and foremost. Newcastle are short price favourites here, Lewis, at -200. The tie +350. West Ham +525. The over and under here, obviously, over is very short because there's been an awful lot of goals in this fixture, and in fact, West Ham can't keep clean sheets. -180 over 2.5. +143 under 2.5. What are your thoughts then here? Not just for Lee, but for everybody when it comes to Newcastle against West Ham. Lewis.
Well, I think we've got to start with West Ham, really, because I think that a lot of the pricing behind Newcastle there is probably down to the fact of how bad West Ham are under Lopetegui and how bad they've been this season. They don't seem to have an identity under this new manager, which is very. It's a little bit baffling that they went for him in the first place, because it looks like David Moyes football, just without the great counter-attacking style. Did you see what I mean? It's sort of like they've taken away the best bits of the Moyes era and what he brought to the table and replaced it with Lopetegui, who is a very sort of a pragmatic manager anyway. And I think it could be actually turned into one of the biggest mistakes of the summer in terms of managerial appointments. And I'm actually quite annoyed at myself for not seeing this coming from just sort of like a punting and a betting point of view, because looking back, David Sullivan doesn't really like to put his hands in his pockets in terms of getting a manager out of a club. So he always likes the cheap and safe option. And Lopetegui obviously was available at the time, so didn't have to pay any money to get him. And I just think that was quite a lazy appointment. And I think as punters, we were maybe blindsided slightly by the fact that they did some relatively good transfer business, bringing in 6 or 7, 8 players that all look like they'll be able to improve that team. But if you haven't got the right coach to suit those players, it's never going to work. And just seems like a lack of a game plan at the moment. I don't really know what they're trying to do in their play. No cohesion. Key players like Paqueta, Jared Bowen, they've just looked out on their luck, out on way below where their standards normally hit. And It's actually the goalkeeping situation as well is really worrying for them. They brought Fabianski back in, haven't they? He's 39 now. He's the oldest player in the Premier League. And he's definitely got a case of Poppadom hands at the moment. It just seems like everything goes through him quite easily. And that sort of says in the save ratio over the season between him and Areola, it's the second worst in the Premier League at 62%. So they're just shipping goals, and they've shipped goals like you wouldn't believe in this calendar year. Honestly, their defensive numbers, especially away from home, are absolutely frightening, and it really could be lambs to the slaughter, to be honest, tonight for West Ham if Newcastle turn on. They conceded West Ham 35 goals in their 14 away games in the Premier League. In their last 14 away games, that's an average of 2.5 goals per game on the road. That's the worst record of any ever-present Premier League team in that time. So, yeah, as we've had a few comments already coming through, expecting Newcastle to deliver the goods tonight, and I can totally see that. They found some form, haven't they? Newcastle won the last 2 Premier League games against Arsenal and Forest as well. So it's quite a good form line to trust, beating those 2 teams, and not actually won 3 in a row since the early days of the Eddie Howe era. So it does just feel like they're getting back to that sort of level now. What they showed when they qualified for the Champions League, and it has to be credit to Eddie Howe for that, actually, because I thought he was a sitting duck this season for the sack. I thought it just could be coming to the end of the road for him, but managed to find that sort of spark again, getting those combinations going in the front line, and they look relatively secure at the back as well. So you're not going to get. It's a pretty obvious call backing of Newcastle to win the match, but
we've got to get a little creative, haven't we? Really,
you do, I think. And my angle in here is the fact that once Newcastle actually get in front in a game, they are got very strong chin. They don't really seem to relent, and they're very good at seeing a game through. And this is based from the fact that they've won their last 10 Premier League games in which they led at any point in the match. So that's a really strong record. And I just think when you throw in West Ham's sort of low confidence, and if Newcastle get the first goal, I think there's strong evidence here that they could literally canter to victory here at St James's Park, where they're notoriously strong as well. So instead of just backing Newcastle on the nose, the angle I've gone for here is the half-time, full-time prices. If Newcastle put a fast start together and get in front, I think they'll be hard to peg back here. So you're boosting that sort of minus 200 on a Newcastle win to plus 120 by putting Newcastle half-time, full-time. So Newcastle will be winning at half-time and full-time. So, yeah, I would totally be on board with any pro-Newcastle play here. But just, as you say, have to get a little bit creative and boost that sort of outright price to something a bit more palatable. So that plus 120 Newcastle half-time, full-time definitely stood out for me.
Lots of comments coming in about this game. Most people wanting to side with Newcastle, as you would imagine. So, Lee, you can go out. I prefer it if you stayed with us, but if you want to go out, you can do. We're going to play half-time, full-time Newcastle plus money. Just going back to the Liverpool situation, Adamola says, if Liverpool beat City on Sunday, I think the title race is over for City. Pep Guardiola sort of danced around that question in the press conference, didn't he, today, when he's talking about the European game? He was asked about that. He didn't really give in, but he said it would be difficult, or worse to that effect. Gary Stoker says, what do you guys think? Isak anytime Newcastle to win? I'll get Lewis's thoughts on that in a second. Genepi says, so many low-scoring games at St James's Park. Yeah, we're taking in the West Ham factor, though, I think, with our particular plays. Duncan Evans, Isak 2 or more goals. It's around about plus 500-600, I think, isn't it, at the moment? Frederick's been back on, said Helmand Sport against Den Haag over 2.5. Newcastle win over 2.5 as well for Frederick. Lovely Cell says, what's the play? Newcastle 3-1. I could certainly see 3-1. What else have we got here? Kudos, good player, but more of an assist man. Bowen is the only attacking threat, according to FGA Football. Says, I can't see West Ham scoring. Newcastle win 2-0. I mean, that's another way you could play it, I guess, isn't it? Here, FGA Football says Newcastle and Gordon to score or an assist. What about Isak? He's going to be sort of punter's darling at the moment, better's darling, isn't he? Didn't get the goal against Azerbaijan, which snookered absolutely everybody, but he scored in his previous 5. Is he just becoming a player that might be a little bit overbet? Or is their angle with Isak is that Newcastle have to play a certain way, Lewis? If West Ham come to block low, those Isak goals are sort of on the counter-attack with balls over the top and him racing down the wing or getting on the end of some things. Might that threat be nullified? Are you an Isak fan? Has the price gone? What do you think?
Yeah, I think the price has gone with all these sort of obvious plays. They're ones that I try to sort of stay clear of it in a way, unless you're going to try and be clever and maybe back him to score multiple goals in the game. I do think there's normally value in those markets, but I would encourage people to have a look at the Newcastle goal scorer individual prices tonight, and shots bets and shots on target bets and corner bets. If you've really got a pro Newcastle fancy on any of those markets, I do think it's going to be one of those games where West Ham are just going to have to sit in. They're not playing. They're not playing with any sort of confidence that they can come and take the game to Newcastle. They are going to try and just sort of make this game into a real sort of tough ask for Newcastle by defending deep. So I do think Newcastle's shots lines are really, really, really live tonight. And there is a play I'm really interested in, actually.
Yep.
And it's Joe Willock to have over 1.5 shots at around even money with Bet Rivers. And he's become a really important player for Newcastle without anyone noticing, to be honest.
Come back to form a bit, hasn't he, recently, I think?
Yeah, he's been in and out of the team with injuries, and that sort of hampered his progress. But when he plays, Newcastle are a much better team, and the with and without numbers absolutely scream that as well. I mean, the last 80 games for Newcastle, they have a 66% strike rate with him in the team. This is winning a win strike rate, and only a 42% when he's missing. So in points per games terms, that goes from 2.2 points they win with him in the team to just 1.5 when he's not. And there's more to it than just Willock having a huge influence. But I just think he knits everything together in the way that Eddie Howe wants to sort of attack, and he's very clever with his movement off the left, I've found, and getting into those dangerous areas in the box. And it does actually confuse an opposition, those runs he makes. And that probably actually frees up more space for Isak and Gordon, because he is a very dangerous player in the box. So I'm always interested in his shots prices, his goals price. He's always sort of overpriced, I believe, in all these sort of props markets. And I backed him tonight to have over 1.5 shots. It's obviously a bet that can be found in the player shots market. I just think it's a great bet, considering Newcastle are just likely to dominate the territory here. And Willock's going to get into the box on plenty of occasions. And as I said, it's not a shot on target. It's just any shot that he registers. So it can be blocked, it can go wide, it can go fly to Sunderland. It doesn't matter, as long as he's had a shot. That's that's absolutely fine for this bet. And this bet has landed in his last 4 starts. So he's had over 1.5 shots in his last 4 starts, where he's had 9 shots in total. And this bet would have cashed in 9 of his last 13 starts for Newcastle, going back over last season when he was fit. So really positive signs for this bet tonight. And especially if you just even scrape his average per 90 for shots in the Premier League under Eddie Howe, it's actually at 1.81. So you're really close to that 2 per game line anyway. And you're getting even money here, which I think that's very, very generous. I'd have it close to sort of minus 130. So yeah, I would say that's a more confident play than the outright half-time, full-time Newcastle angle. So yeah, I'd encourage people to have a look at the over 1.5 shots line for Joe Willock.
I think he's a really streaky player. I think when he's on form, you'll get that sort of clump of games, 6, 7, 8, 9 games. We saw that when he was on loan there. Did he score something like 8 games on the spin or something like that? Yeah. It's one of those weird things with Joe, who's a really nice guy and can have these streak of really good form. So we're hoping for Willock to get involved there. What else we got on the comments here? Lovely Cell says, what about the Monday night factor? Duncan Evans says, if this was 3 p.m. on a Saturday with no one watching, Newcastle would win. But Monday night on TV changes things weirdly. Yeah, Lovely Cell's also saying, what's the Monday night factor here? I mean, I don't think there's too much in Monday night factors, Lewis, or anything like that. I was just looking at some of the Opta stuff to see if there was a little sort of random Monday night stat, but I couldn't find anything.
I would say it plays into Newcastle hands. It's a Monday night, to be honest, under the lights at St James's Park. It's going to be a good atmosphere. I do think home fans seem to relish these Monday night games as well. So I would say it's actually the fact it's on a Monday night actually probably favours Newcastle. But as I say, I haven't got the data or any numbers to back that up. But probably it's definitely something to look into in terms of the timing of the match, I think, especially when you're sort of assessing a Saturday 12:30 kickoff, because obviously that can have a huge effect on the atmosphere and stuff. I'm not sure whether the Monday 8 o'clock slot has a big effect on the output of a game. But yeah, no, these are all things we have to sort of consider to try and find these angles, don't we? We've got to find them anywhere.
FJ Football says, take your pick for West Ham players to be carded. Are going for Paqueta. Yes, fair enough. We understand where you're going with that one. We're going to get on to Port Vale shortly with Lewis, because we've got to play in that one as well. Just a reminder, though, for Lewis, we're going to go Newcastle half-time, full-time. So to be leading at half-time, leading at full-time. Also, Joe Willock in the shots market over 1.5 shots. Not shots on target, just attempts at goal. If you want to know where the money's been going for this particular game, Bet Rivers have given us some details here. 93% of the money, 95% of the tickets on Newcastle, 68% of the money on under, 68% of the tickets on over. So sort of bigger money plays on the over, but more bets on the overs. We've had a $2,500 play on under 2.5 goals, $1,000 play near enough on Newcastle, -1.25 on the Asian handicap. That's another way to play it. Maybe that's plus money. And also a $500 play on Isak to be the first goal scorer. And in terms of player props, both Sandro Tonali and Lloyd Kelly have been bet to have one or more total shots at -225 and +140 respectively. What else have we got on our comments here? We've got FJ Football saying they'll be losing, and he's a bit of a hothead. Fair play, talking about Paqueta. Also, Jeffrey says Emerson's up against Gordon. Good one to get a card too. Yeah, Anthony Gordon sort of draws a foul or two, doesn't he, Lewis? He's had a good season, I think. And I think he's Eddie Howe surprised us a little bit because he's played left and right wing, hasn't he, this season?
Yeah, I always like to look at the opposition fullback against Gordon, actually, because he's not only a good drawer of fouls, he's a very good drawer of yellow cards. So always looking to see whether who's playing in that slot in the opposition. It's all, as you just mentioned, though, you can just tie yourself in knots a little bit because he can pop up on either flank, so you end up back in the wrong fullback. But it's maybe an in-play one, see where he's lining up tonight and get that fullback on your side. I think Wan-Bissaka and Emerson Palmieri be the fullbacks, and Palmieri especially is quite reckless, so I would keep an eye on Emerson actually if he's up against Gordon. Yeah, I like that shout. Yeah,
that's Ginepi who says that. Serie A action tonight, just to run through some stats and where the money's been going for this one. Always very popular worldwide Serie A football. Might be a couple of angles in. I asked James and Steve on the European show about the Monday night football. We've got Empoli against Udinese, which is the earlier kickoff, 12:30 Eastern, and the Venezia Lecce game is a little bit later on at 2:45. Empoli here, interestingly, have drifted a little bit, +200. I don't think they're the worst team at all. They've only been beaten at home by Napoli and Inter, probably the two best teams in Serie A this season. Udinese +175 started the season strongly, but have dropped a little bit. Udinese have lost their last 3 and 4 straight on their travels. Only one away win. I'll probably play Empoli or maybe the draw double chance on that one. When it comes to the Bet Rivers traders, 52% of the money, 68% of the tickets have come on Empoli. Overs has been backed as well. Sebastiano Esposito to score at +575 has been very popular in this market. And also Tino Angerin, one or more shot on target at +240. That's a popular prop. We asked James about it. He's been in great form for the European show. His lean was over 2, incidentally, on their Empoli Udinese game. And Venezia against Lecce, it's the bottom 2 going head to head here. Lecce haven't won away from home. They haven't scored away from home. Venezia have won a couple of games at home so far this season. Might be the play here. Most of the money has come for Venezia. In terms of player props, Remy Udin, $500 play on under 2.5 total shots. And we've also seen a little bit of support for overs on the over and under line. 59% of the money, 57% of the tickets on overs. Those are the two Serie A games. Worth. I think I played both home wins. Home wins a little bit down this season in Serie A, so there might be a little bit of regression when it comes to the action in Italy. Let us know your thoughts. We're going to talk League 2 football next with Lewis. We've got Port Vale against Crewe, which is a big game in the 4th tier in England. Port Vale -106, just shy of even money. Crewe are +300. The tie at +225. Over and under here. Unders is the favourite, -162. Over +102 here. Don't know what your thoughts are on this one. Port Vale have been top for a little while, but their form has just dipped a little bit. Lewis, recently, Darren Moore, of course, in charge there. They got knocked out of the cup by Barnsley, but they did win their last game, I think, didn't they, after a few games without success. Crewe have been okay this season. They're in the playoff positions. One of the better games in League 2 over the course of the weekend. There'll be a decent crowd at Vale Park as well, I would have thought, tonight. Any thoughts on Vale against Crewe in League 2 from you?
Yeah, we've got 2 teams here that are both in good form. They're first and second in the form table from the last 12 games in League 2. So they're probably both going to have sort of aspirations of sort of sustaining this challenge now, and it could be quite an exciting season for both fan bases. And I really like Crewe actually as a team to bet on, because you just know how they're going to approach games. I do when you get a sort of a read on a team over when you get to this sort of stage of the season now, where you've seen them over, there's data to go on at least sort of like 12 to 15 games. You can sort of get a good read on teams, and Crewe are definitely a team I like to bet on in terms of an under goal proposition, because they just keep things tight, and they're ultimately very defensively focused, and they play for a clean sheet. So in their last 10 of their last 13 games have gone under 2.5 goals, and their total match goals average over that time is just 1.92. So very low scoring matches they're involved in. They're just sort of a very pragmatic team that don't take too many risks, and they just rely on that sort of like excellent defensive process to pick them up results. So, and that's shown by the fact they've just conceded 7 goals in their last 13 games. So it's exactly how we know how they're going to approach this game tonight, going to the league leaders. They're just going to defend very sort of resolutely, and just try and probably, hopefully, dig out a draw. Maybe a team like Port Vale, who are going great guns, and that word pragmatism that I said a moment ago, that's exactly how I would sort of describe Darren Moore as a manager as well, the Port Vale boss, because he's used to be a imposing centre back in his day, didn't he? A very good player back in his day, and I think he's definitely transferred that to his to his ways of thinking in terms of management. I think that's ultimately what lost him jobs at Sheffield Wednesday, despite winning promotion with them from League One, and then he had a bad spell at Huddersfield, where his style of football was really criticised for being too defensive. But he seemed to be on a good thing now with Port Vale. I know they were relegated last season, but he's obviously got a good relationship with the board there, and they've trusted him to sort of rebuild it. And they've started the season really well, taken 29 points from their last 12 games. So they're very good at winning games. I think they win a lot of games by sort of the odd goal. So there's been sort of close, fine margins at play. But I do think he's a manager that likes to put a lot of emphasis as well on being sort of tough to beat and solid. So I just think it has to be an unders-based play, this game. Every time I'm on, there's always an unders play to have, so it's very good that I can sort of like unleash the boredom again. I just think everything just adds up, doesn't it? I mean, Darren Moore's pragmatic approach, plus it being a battle towards the top end of the table, doesn't it? Where both teams probably would shake hands on a draw if it's level at 60 minutes. So do think it brings the sort of 0-0 and 1-1 into play in terms of correct scores. And I think punters have already spotted that under 2.5 goals is a big runner here, very, very short prices. So the market is expecting a low-scoring games. And unfortunately, my pockets aren't that, despite the Man City winnings, my pockets aren't that deep to be getting involved with those sort of prices. So I just like to have a little look at boosting it up slightly. And it's headed to like the same game parlay here and adding the draw into the mix for the under 2.5. So basically meaning we're back in 0-0 and 1-1. I'm sort of Dutching. It would be Dutching stakes if you're doing them 2 singles, but if you're doing a same game parlay under 2.5 and the draw, that comes out at plus 300. So really, I think that's a nice boost on a game that if it is going to go under the line, under the 2.5 line, you've got 2 big running score lines on your side here, 0-0 and 1-1, and to get 3 plus 300 on that, I thought that looked quite tasty. So yeah, I'll be watching the Newcastle West Ham game, hoping Joe Willock has a shots frenzy, but definitely keeping an eye on this game, and hopefully that there's no goal updates as we go on. So yeah, really like that. Under 2.5 and the match to end of the draw.
Lots of you giving us your opinions on the Newcastle West Ham game. Benny says, I will cash a nice parlay if it's a draw today. So I've been hedging with Newcastle to win. Don't let Nigel know that you're hedging, because it's only for gardeners, Benny. Come on, I can see Newcastle winning, and both teams to score 2-1, 3-1. Yeah, I can't put anyone off that. Cree says Newcastle on the money line and under 4.5. Yeah, I see where you're coming, just trying to boost it up a little bit. Everyone's trying to get with Newcastle and just trying to tweak the bets. FJ football. The only way I see West Ham scoring is if Newcastle go down to 10, maybe with a penalty. Newcastle win under 3.5 if you don't fancy them to keep clean sheets. A safe bet. Benny says, I like Newcastle to win an under 4.5. Yeah, there's all these different ways that people just trying to sneak up those sort of big minus money favourites, whether it's to nil, whether it's sort of minus 4.5 goals total, Lewis. I think these days bettors have got a lot more creative when it comes to trying to side with these very short price favourites. They don't just leave them alone anymore. It's all about what you can add on just to try and get a little bit of value to make it more palatable. Everyone tries to make it up to even money also.
Yeah, no, that's definitely the way to play it. I think that is the this is the very modern way of doing things. It's very damning on West Ham, this, isn't it, and how bad they've been this season. That I don't think we've had any pro comments come in for any sort of West Ham based bet. So it sort of shows you the trouble they're in under Lopetegui, I think. And my worry is that this could continue for a while yet, because as I mentioned earlier, David Sullivan, the owner, doesn't like paying out managers, doesn't like sacking them. So he's going to try and give this every chance to make this work. I think with Lopetegui. So if they get beat tonight, I wouldn't have thought he would get fired. I think that this will continue for a while yet, until they probably convince Mr. Moyes that he's the man to come back and ride into the London Stadium and save their season again. So it's really damning on West Ham, all these opinions and the way the market's shaping against them here. So I'd be really shocked if they got anything, or even a smash and grab. I really can't see it, to be honest. I just don't think they've got the sort of the team spirit or the cohesion or the strategy to go to St James's Park and get results. So yeah, completely on board with all these pro Newcastle plays tonight. Yeah, looking forward to watching the game.
Benny also says he's parlaying this match with the Monday Night American Football, Ravens against the Chargers. Yes, we have got some NFL interest for you here. We've got some trends and some prices for you can see on screen. It's the Ravens at the Chargers. We're in California for this one. We're in Los Angeles. The Ravens minus 152, the Chargers plus 125 on the money line. So the spread there for the Chargers, get that 2.5 point start. Total points, the line is 50.5 here. I'll let you know where the money's going and one or two trends as well here. When it comes to the game, 6 of the Ravens' last 7 games have gone over the total points line. The Chargers have covered the spread in 4 straight games, and the Chargers have lost 9 straight games as underdogs. Bear that in mind. When it comes to where the money has been going, 88% of the money, 73% of the tickets on the Ravens. And once again, on the spread, it's the Ravens that have been bet to cover that spread. Over and under, 74% of the money, 65% of the tickets are on over 50.5 points. Seems to be a fairly high line, that to me, minus 109. If you're looking for some player props, the player trends look like this. Isaiah Likely has recorded 40 plus receiving yards in 5 of the Ravens' last 6 games against AFC opponents. Lamar Jackson has recorded 280 or more passing yards in 6 of the Ravens' last 7 games. And Jackson's also thrown 2 or more touchdowns in 4 of the Ravens' last 5 games. Mark Andrews has recorded 4 or more receptions in 3 of his last 4 Monday night games. That's just a snapshot of one or two of the trends we've got when it comes to the prop bets. And in terms of where the money has been going for the prop markets, if you want to follow the cash, well, these are the ones that you should be siding with. Derrick Henry, anytime touchdown, minus 250. Justin Herbert, over 18.5 rushing yards at minus 118. Zay Flowers, over 39.5 receiving yards at minus 315. So some short price favorites there. And also, in terms of ranked by largest percentage of total game tickets, nearly 9% of the props on Derrick Henry to touchdown at any time at minus 250, as we mentioned previously. So those are the trends, and indeed where the money's been going when it comes to the NFL Monday night action. It's the Ravens at the Chargers. Disky says, Dan, can you please ask Nigel to bring Lewis twice a week, please? That's out of my control, Disky, but I'm sure Nigel is watching.
Checks in the post.
Ming said, Dan, can you please, what else have we got? Ming says, I'm going to bet Harbour to be winning coach at NFL tonight. What else we got? Shakespeare has been on. Good to always hear from Shakespeare. Baltimore, minus 2.5 over the Los Angeles Chargers, minus 115. The Harbour brothers face off against each other for the first time. The older brother will win tonight. I see where Ming's going with this. You can see my lack of NFL knowledge. And Penny says, pop it on hands. Remember that. Oh, hang on a minute. We'll be going down somewhere we don't really need to go down. Right, I should really read these comments before I start. Right, we need the best bets from Lewis before we wrap things up. That's twice I've done that on this show. I keep reading comments that I shouldn't. Lewis, best bets tonight. You've taken a good look at the Newcastle, West Ham and the Port Vale Crewe games. If you were to advise one play for our listeners, viewers on tonight's soccer, what would it be?
I'd always favour the prop markets over the
Okay.
sort of the most popular ones. Is sort of my not where I'd say I'd specialise in that area. So I've got to advise punters to take the round even money here for Joe Willock to have over 1.5 shots. It looks a really good price. I've got it a lot shorter to my numbers. So yeah, Joe Willock over 1.5 shots.
Okay, that's the play from Lewis, favouring the prop markets. But Lewis also suggested Newcastle half-time, full-time, and a lot of comments basically siding with Newcastle. So if you're looking to nil, -1 on the Asian handicap, or if you want to go a little bit big and you want to play Newcastle and say over 2.5 goals in the game or over 3.5 goals in the game, we won't put you off any of those sort of same game parlays when it comes to the big match tonight. Lewis, many thanks for your company. Enjoyed it as per usual. Many thanks to everybody who's chipped in with the comments. We're getting asked about the darts and various other things that I know nothing about. That's one for Nigel, maybe tomorrow, who's going to be on Talking Champions League as well with Steve. So the Champions League returns. We've got action on Tuesday and Wednesday, of course, in Europe's top competition. So that will be on the live show. Once again, though, many thanks to Lewis. That is your lot for today. We will see you soon. Good luck tonight with all your bets.